Hello everyone, it's Types, and today I'm going to be going over the top 10 Pokemon from Paradox Rift. So I'm looking at just the Pokemon, not the trainers. If you want to learn about the top 10 best trainers, check out my other video, which I released, I believe, yesterday. But I'm not 100% sure about the release order of these. But yeah, I think the Pokemon are harder to order. I thought for the trainers, the top 10 was relatively clear. Certainly the cards can move up or down a slot or two. But I think the Pokemon are not the best Pokemon aren't as good as the best trainers, which is normally the case in most sets. But then there's a lot of like decent Pokemon, so I think there is some room for maneuverability within the top 10. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with my top 10 list. So number 10 here, we got Screamtail. Screamtail is an ancient Pokemon. Oh, and also I'll say shout out to Justin Beazle for the images. These are proxies, as you can see, there's like Japanese text on this card. But Justin Beazle, I don't know if himself did the proxies or if he worked with someone. I suppose the Justin Beazle website is primarily owned by one person, but there are some other people who support it as well, I'm sure. So there should be a link to the Justin Beazle's YouTube channel as well in the description if you want to check that out. But anyways, Screamtail here is a really good Pokemon here with Roaring Scream. It does 20 damage to your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage count on this Pokemon. This means that if you have 80 damage on, you can hit 160 snipe, which is quite good. We've seen this in the past, and it's been good. But then, more importantly, arguably, you can snipe more than that. You can add on more HP through a number of different ways, and you can essentially one-shot anything on the bench, but it depends on the tool you add. So you can add on Bravery Charm, essentially giving you 40 more HP, giving you 80 more damage, so you're hitting 240. And you can add on 40 more damage from that with the tool that buffs Ancient HP. You can even stick on Gorgeous Mantle, so you give him an extra prize, but then you can most likely one-shot any Pokemon. Obviously, this gets a little awkward because you need to excite a bunch of energy with Gardevoir EX. And really, Gardevoir EX is the only way to power this up. You could technically use Excalibur with Wait, is there a stadium? I think there is. Maybe it's Clam to Snowy Mountain. I was gonna say Old Cemetery, but Old Cemetery, I don't think will work with Screamtail. I don't remember how that card works. If the text says it has to be Psychic Energy, but I believe it is to a Psychic Pokemon, in which case it won't work. But anyway, I'd recommend using this with Gardevoir EX, and I think it's a good improvement to the deck, but I don't think it's broken by any means. So I'll just leave that 10 here. It's a card that I think I'm not too sure where to place it, as I am with a number of cards in this list. Next up, number 9. This was honestly a card that wasn't really on my radar at all. I was looking at some other people's lists, and just a list of cards as a whole. I ran into this Klawf with Hysterical Scissors. It does 30, but if you're affected by a special condition, it does 160 more. So with the double turbo, if you're affected by a special condition, this can be doing 170, which is very good for one attachment on a basic. So you need to damage yourself, or you need to give yourself a special condition which will damage yourself, which will be burn or poison. And there are a few ways to do that. There's Seasoned Curry or something, Spicy Seasoned Curry, I think might be the name of the card, which burns you. And then there's also the new Among Us Pokemon, which is it's not on this list. I was considering putting it in Klawf's place, but Brute Bonnet, yeah, there we go. I just think of it as the Among Us one. But yeah, that will allow you to poison both actives, boosting both your damage by a substantial amount and doing a little more to your opponent's active, which is pretty good. Overall, I think Klawf is a very decent Pokemon. I think it might find its way into Arceus decks. I'm not exactly sure where else it'll find its way into, or if it'll be its own deck. I feel like making it its own deck is a bit lackluster, but it's certainly a very decent Pokemon. Next up, number 8, Skeledirge EX. This is another one that I'm a bit unsure of. It has a very interesting ability. First of all, obviously, it is a Skeledirge, meaning that you have other Skeledirges. You have the other Fire Skeledirge EX, which is a very decent card. Not an amazing one, but possibly this will make it good. But most importantly, you have its ability here, Incendiary Song. Which is on your turn, you discard a basic Fire Energy from your hand, and then you do 60 more damage this turn, all of your Pokemon. Not just Skeledirge, not Fire Pokemon, not Metal Pokemon, all of them. Which is very good. Notably, I've seen this in Arceus decks. Obviously, Arceus is a Pokemon that doesn't hit the most amount of damage in the game. It hits an okay amount, but you're definitely looking for it to hit a little bit more. So Incendiary Song here will allow you to do more. And you can even stack this, I believe. So you can do 120 more if you have 2 Skeledirges. Obviously, then you need 2 Skeledirges, which are 2 stage 2s, 2 Fire Energy in your hand, plus all whatever else you need with your regular attacker. So this is going to be a little bit awkward, but overall I think Skeledirge is certainly going to be very decent. You also can hit through effects with Luster Burn, which is useful against, say, Mimikyu or Alolan Vulpix V-Star, in both Pokemon which are decent, not amazing, but Alolan Vulpix V-Star is pretty solid. And a lot of times if you're playing like an Arceus deck, or if you're playing a more likely a Charizard deck, you could put Skeledirge in as well. So I think Skeledirge is going to go in either Arceus, Charizard, or both together. Next up, number 7, Iron Jugulis. This is another weird one, but an interesting card, and a very solid future Pokemon. A bit of a spoiler, I will have more future Pokemon on this list, but Iron Jugulis is a decent one here. I think it's pretty decent. Homing Headbutt here does 50 to 3 opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on them already, which is decent. It's 150 damage. It's not a ton of energy and it's colorless, so you can tech into different decks, but obviously you need to do it after you set up your opponent's board state in some way. This is either with Sableye, with Hawlucha. There are a number of ways to do this, but they're all a little bit awkward. But Homing Headbutt will then do a lot of damage, so if you have some decent way to set up a card like Hawlucha, which could be good in Lost Zone anyways, then Iron Jugulis I think has potential here. And then Baryon Beam does 150 for 5, but it's actually just 3, and it does 170, assuming you have a tool attached. The Future Booster Energy Capsule, which is, if you didn't see my previous ranking, it's a very good card. So this means you're doing 170 for 3, which is a lot. It's very solid. It's comparing it to Klawf, it's worse, but you have this versatility within these 2 attacks, and you are just a bit more of I'd say a versatile Pokemon, and you have you're colorless as well. Klawf attacks are colorless as well, but no, I think Iron Jugulis is better than Klawf, and it works very well with the Future package, or decently at least. The Future package is mostly held together by the Future Booster Energy Capsule, but I still think Iron Jugulis definitely has a place in the meta, mostly in Lost Zone. I think it just has decent synergy there. Next up, number 6, Iron Hands EX. Iron Hands EX is a bit of a controversial Pokemon for quite a number of reasons, some of which I probably shouldn't talk about. But it has its funny little attack here. Amp you very much for 120, which is for 4 energy, which is not good. But if you get a KO with it, I can't speak. If you get a KO with it, you take an extra prize, which is very good because taking extra prizes is always good for you. So this means that essentially you can KO a single prize there and get 2 prizes for it, making up for its bad attack cost. And you can also attack this into other decks that aren't lightning-based decks because it is mostly colorless and only 1 lightning. You also have Arm Press, 160 for 3, which isn't garbage. It's certainly usable. Obviously, then it needs to probably be in a lightning type deck. I think its expensive attack cost makes it a little awkward to use, but overall it's a decent Pokemon and will help your match against single prize decks. Obviously, some people have talked about it in Chien-Pao, and it's okay in Chien-Pao. It's not broken, but it's pretty solid. It fulfills a similar role to Radiant Greninja, but actually wait for my podcast episode, which will be coming out this week, and I'll be talking about Iron Hands and a bit more of how that interacts with Chien-Pao. But overall, Iron Hands is a decent Pokemon. I think it's getting a little overhyped, but it's still good. Next up, number 5. This is actually one of the decks on the ladder as well, I believe. I can't confirm that, but I'm pretty sure it is one of the ladder decks. So I'm like 95% sure. But you can find out for yourself by checking live, and I think Pokemon might have made an official announcement about it. So we have Roaring Moon EX, which is a very solid Pokemon here. 2 attacks the first with just a one-shots anything, but you do 200 to yourself. But if you don't want to do 200 to yourself, you can do the other attack 100, but then you can just go to Stadium and play, which you should, and you do and then you hit 220, which is very solid. One-shotting, obviously not everything, but one-shotting enough things that it'll pretty much always have a decent prize trade. Roaring Moon is just so powerful and also a little bit versatile, and I think that's what makes it so good. And also, it just doesn't really care what you're playing. It'll just KO you. There's nothing that can really stop this. I'm sure there's something, maybe like I think Espeon and Espeon VMAX, and there's like a Toad School. They kind of stop it, but like no one's playing those. Some people play them occasionally, but like it's so good. The biggest issue here, obviously, is that you have you're damaging yourself a lot, but overall you have the tool to give yourself more HP, and you can power it up pretty easily, including turn one going second. So I think Roaring Moon EX here is um, it's a decent card. And certainly one you want to watch out for. It could be teched into other decks, but I think mostly it's going to be its own deck. Moving into number 4, I think these top 4 are inherently the strongest cards. They all have insane effects. But yeah, I think these top 4 are just like so good. Naturally, I don't know how they'll fit into the meta, but they are inherently insanely strong Pokemon. Number 4 here, we got Garchomp EX, which is a Stage 2 water Pokemon. It's Terra Water, except it uses fighting energy, unsurprisingly. There's actually a Garchomp in the format, which uses partially fighting, and it's a dragon type, so it uses fighting, and it also uses water, which is weird, so you can use you'll have this like water deck that uses water Pokemon, but you don't put the water energy on the water Pokemon. But realistically, that doesn't really work out so well either, because Hydrolander, which sounds like a water attack, accelerates fighting energy. So it's a bit of a mess. But anyways, you're probably not putting this with water energy. But Hydrolander is insane. For one fighting, you do 160, which is very decent. It's not like broken just on its own, but it's solid. And then you accelerate 3 basic fighting from discard to a bunch of Pokemon in any way you like. You also have free retreat. This is a perfect partner for Cheryl. And you have Sonic Dive, discard 2, and you snipe 120, which is decent. It's not insane, but it's usable. But overall, the first deck is just so good. Free retreat's really nice, and this typing is pretty decent as well. I don't know if it's better than it's probably decent, and better than being just like fighting. But obviously, you'd rather be dragon. But yeah, Garchomp EX is just so good with its first attack. It's definitely a card that I'd be watching out for. And I think one of the top new decks from the new set. Moving the third best deck, and that is Xatu. And this is a really interesting Pokemon with, what is it, Akashic Sense. Once you turn, you can attach a basic psychic energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon and draw 2 cards. That's very good. You need to accelerate the energy to draw the cards, but it's like Shadow Rider, except it doesn't have to be the psychic Pokemon. This does pair with the new Terra Mewtwo EX, but the new Terra Mewtwo EX isn't insane. I was considering putting it on this list, but in the end I decided not to. However, Xatu is very indecent with that. And in some sense, it's a replacement to Gardevoir EX. They're very different cards in the way that they work, as Gardevoir is a Stage 2 that accelerates lots of energy, which is versus Xatu, which is Stage 1, which accelerates some. But then it also covers the draw aspect of the Curlia. So I think those two will kind of be fighting to see which one's better. Certainly pre-rotation, I imagine Gardevoir will be better with the very insane Stage 2 Gardevoir from Chilling Reign. But that being said, I think Xatu will be coming up. And it's just inherently a very strong ability, especially now that it can accelerate 2 Pokemon with colorless energy. You could do Iron Hands. I would not recommend using Iron Hands with Xatu, but there's a thing. But overall, I think Xatu is just very, very good. The card that you want to be on the lookout for, because it just accelerates so much energy and draws so many cards. It's very good. Kind of like the number 2 card here, which also draws cards. Its ability says if it's in the active, you draw 2. If it's on the bench, you just draw 1. But overall, that's just a decent chunk of draw. But then you have your absolutely insane attack here, Make It Rain. For 1 metal, discard any number of basic energy cards from your hand. There's 50 for each card discarded in this way. That is very good. You can do lots of damage. You can pretty much one-shot anything at any. You can pretty much do anything at any time you want, or any amount of damage to the active at any time you want. Once you got your Gholdengo evolved, so you do just set up for 1 turn, which is completely normal. Pretty much every deck in the game needs to do that. But then you're just one-shotting everything every turn. I think the only issue with this card is it lacks versatility, but it's only 1 metal, so you can tech in other metal attackers. Notably, Scizor, which is a very decent Pokemon punishing high ability decks, and it's just pretty good. But yeah, Gholdengo is it's good. It's very good. So I definitely be on the lookout for this one. This one's also on the ladder, and it just hits like a truck. So if you enjoy Chimpow, I think you'll enjoy Gholdengo. I think they're two pretty similar decks that fulfill pretty much the same role in the meta. I think Gholdengo might be simpler, but I don't know. It's certainly up to you. Overall, though, I think Gholdengo is it's strong, and it draws. Originally when I saw this card revealed, I was like, this card's insane. And in terms of raw power, it's probably one of the strongest cards I've seen in a long time, especially with superior energy retrieval, earthen vessel, and regular energy retrieval. Gholdengo is just insane. So what beats this? Iron Valiant EX. I think Iron Valiant EX is just super good in its ability. In fact, it led to a card being banned in expanded format. It's that good. Tachyon Bits is an ability that says when you move from the bench to the active, you may put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. This is, you can only use one per turn. You can reset with Scoop Up Net and Expanded, which is why that got banned. But it's very good. It just allows you to get extra damage. There's literally going to be like a pseudo donk deck in Standard, which is just really absurd. And then you have Laser Blade 200 for 3. And during next turn, this Pokemon can't attack, but you get free retreat and do 20 more damage with the new tool. So that doesn't really matter too much. You're going to be switching in and out all the time, and then you can just do all this damage, put all this damage on the board before, like, you can turn one going first, win. Like, that's not likely, but I guess just generally, now I need to say as this tip, make sure you bench Pokemon. If you just have, like, if you have, say, a Bidoof and a Frigibax, play both of them. If you don't, you might lose. Say, Iron Valiant is super good. It's super fast. And also, it's super good in Lost Zone. It's decent in Gardevoir. But yeah, I think it's really good in Lost Zone. I like it in Lost Zone. Don't really like Forest Stone in Lost Zone. I know it's good, but I don't know. I really like this card. It's very strong. It's just, it's versatile as well. And I think it's the best future Pokemon. The future package is pretty good, but Iron Valiant is the Pokemon that's best suited to take advantage of it because it's versatile. It's like the Chilling Reign Italiano, which is a very good card. It was tied to an engine. The engine was good. Iron Valiant isn't tied to an engine, so it's loosely tied to the future engine, but that's not really an engine. So it's pretty much on its own. It's very good. It's a card that I definitely consider playing in a number of decks, but certainly its own deck as well. And with Rapstrike, it pairs decently well with Rapstrike. But overall, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this set. Okay, and I should probably mention a card that I haven't talked about so far, which is Jirachi. I don't think Jirachi is very good. I don't think it's garbage, but it's actually instantly good against Iron Valiant if they are playing Medicham. But it's a bit of a meme deck anyways, so I wouldn't be too hyped about that one. But overall, I feel like Jirachi, it's a counter to Sableye, and it's a good counter to Sableye, but Sableye isn't the Lost Zone deck. It's arguably the strongest part of the Lost Zone deck, but it's certainly not the only part. And makes up less than half of the deck for pretty much any build. So I'd say Jirachi isn't. Some people have put it even as high as the best card in the set, which I think is definitely wrong. I think it's good, and some people will play it, but I feel like you always put Manaphy in over Jirachi. Manaphy is better than Jirachi because that stops rating Gunja, which actually hits more damage and more likely causes more problems than Jirachi, than Sableye, which Jirachi stops. So, and Manaphy doesn't see play in every deck, so Jirachi will see play in even less decks than the ones that play Manaphy. It's not a garbage card, but it's not quite there, especially now that Lost Zone is getting some new tricks. I'm not overly hyped about Jirachi. But overall, I'm interested in hearing, of course, your thoughts and any cards that you think I missed as well. There are some really cool ones from the set that I didn't include because the set's got a bunch of decent stuff. Overall, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider subscribing, liking, sharing, all that good stuff. Most of my audience isn't subscribed. I should probably include the graphic at some point, but it's like 90-something%, I think. Maybe it's 80-something now. I know some more you subscribed, but anyway, subscribe so we can get that number to 100% subscribed, which would actually not be a good thing. That would mean everyone stops watching. But watch my videos, subscribe, and comment down below any content ideas you have. I'm going to be doing some, obviously, Paradox Rift decks, and I'm super hyped for them. I haven't planned out too many though. I will cover probably the ladder decks because they're always good to cover, and then I'll be covering a deck with Iron Valiant. I'm trying to think. I might actually cover 3 decks with Iron Valiant. But send me any deck ideas you have, and as I'm excited to see it next time. See ya.